Hello, my name is Andrew Flushy and I'm your Virginia DUI lawyer. If you haven't seen the viral video that's going around, there's a video about a DUI flyer, exactly this flyer, that people are using in Florida to get through a DUI checkpoint. The concept is that you take the flyer, you put it inside a baggie, and you also put in your driver's license and your registration, and you dangle that outside your window as you're going through a checkpoint. And I guess in the flyer it looks like they use a little piece of rope or thread or something. And the idea is that you keep your window rolled up, so when the officers can inspect your documents, you're not giving off any odor of alcohol or any odors of what it might else be in your car. Would this work in Virginia? I honestly don't think that it will. It could work, so I can't rule out the possibility that officers might let you pass on through if everything looks good. But the problem in Virginia is that once you're pulled over lawfully, the officers can demand that you exit the vehicle. They can do that for their own safety. And so you might have to get out of the vehicle anyway. In fact, you might have otherwise been waved on through. But if you're kind of causing problems or being unique, that might draw attention to you, and they might ask you to get out of the vehicle simply because of that. The other problem is dangling an item outside your window in Virginia while you're moving would be a traffic infraction most likely, because it would be considered to obstruct the view of the roadway if it's hanging outside the driver window. So because of that, you might have just walked yourself into a ticket by trying to be smart. In Virginia, if the police give you a summons, you're required to sign the summons. Supposedly in Florida, what the flyer people say is that you're not required to sign it. Well, in Virginia, you're supposed to sign it. If you don't, the remedy for the police is that they're able to arrest you and take you before the magistrate. And I thought the whole point of the flyer was to keep you from being arrested. Well, you just failed then at that. The other problem, of course, is that once the police have you out of the vehicle, they're still going to be able to smell if there's anything to smell and whatnot. So you really didn't save yourself probably any hassle by trying to be smart and have a flyer hanging out your window. So what should you do if you come up to a checkpoint? Keep in mind this is not legal advice. Every case is different. It's impossible to advise people in a video about what you should do in any situation you might come across. But in general, in Virginia only, now I can't speak to other states, but in Virginia, if you come up to a checkpoint, you should hand over your license and registration as requested. If the police ask you any questions, I recommend that you invoke your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. It makes sense to not answer any questions, to simply refuse, but to refuse very specifically and say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. And then if you want to add on anything, you could say, I refuse all roadside testing and searches. It makes sense, though, to just invoke your right to remain silent and keep silent and don't do any tests. You don't have to tell them that you refuse. You simply don't have to do any tests. And the key thing is in Virginia, you don't have to do roadside testing. If you're arrested and they say you're being arrested for DUI, they'll read you what's called implied consent, which means that by driving in Virginia and being arrested for probable cause of DUI, that you have to do the breath test at the station, or else you could be charged with refusal, which is an additional offense. So roadside testing and searches you can refuse. Breath test at the police station or blood test at the hospital you have to do, or else you'll be charged with refusal. The final thing is, of course, anytime you're encountering the police, always be polite. You don't have to do everything they say, but you can refuse in a polite way. And of course, don't physically struggle if they're trying to arrest you. Those things are just going to hurt you when your case comes to court. So should you hang a flyer out your window while going through a checkpoint? I don't think so. But should you do all the tests that the police might ask you to do? No.